Hey guys, welcome to another Protein Bros podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Wasserman, and today we have an awesome guest on. Someone we've been really waiting to talk to for a really long time. She is the current athlete of the year for Phorm. Her name is Lexi Johnson, and she is the proud owner of Lexi J Wellness. She has a online community that ranges over 2,000 members. She's right here from the Midwest, St. Joseph, Missouri, and she's grown her community over the last few years, and she has just been skyrocketing in popularity. We talked a lot about how she got started, how she was bullied as a child, how she's grown from being a girl who only got along with guys to now having over 2,000 women that look up to her in her community. And we get into what she's planning on doing with Lexi J Wellness moving forward. Make sure to listen in and let us know what you guys think in the comments.
So the first thing, let's talk about cucumbers. What is your obsession with cucumbers and why are there cucumbers here?
Let's get past the oblong shape.
Dude,
let's get right past it.
Don't.
Right, sorry.
We all thought it. Don't do that.
Okay.
Cucumbers and the zero sugar root beer are here because you guys have excellent hospitality, obviously. I can't tell you why I love cucumbers. I just always have. It's a weird thing that seems notable because apparently it's an unpopular opinion. I eat, no lie, like 4 cucumbers a day.
It's not that cucumbers are bad. I'm indifferent to cucumbers because they don't really have a flavor.
No one feels as strongly about cucumbers as I do. Oh, my bad.
You're good. But yeah, I mean, dude, I've never eaten a cucumber on purpose.
Have you eaten a cucumber on accident?
Yes. And I'll say that because like sometimes they're thrown in the salad, sometimes they're thrown on a sandwich, and I just don't pick them out, and just like, let's see how this is as a blend or a medley with these other things.
I'm just more of a pickle guy.
No, I would eat it like a banana.
Yeah.
For video purposes, I'm not.
I'm with you. I mean, like, so subtle. All right. But the thing is like that, the cucumber vodka craze, like the cucumber alcohol, is that you or me?
It is you.
Damn, embarrassing. All right, everybody do not disturb it immediately. So bottom line, cucumbers have just never been a thing that I go out of my way to, but like I feel like it's been kind of a trendy flavor, but not as a standalone. The craze of people just crushing cucumbers has not been a thing, but as far as like cucumber flavored like waters and alcohols, I feel like has gotten very popular. Would you agree?
For sure. And oddly enough, I don't like participate in those. I'm a strict whole food cucumber gal.
Yeah.
I just like the cucumbers themselves.
I know, yeah.
Anyways, the t-shirt's coming.
I feel you on the root beer, though. I agree with you there. That is a solid choice.
And I think the A&W Zero Sugar, I think, is the best of the diet root beers.
Elite. I was thinking about this because, I don't know, when did you guys start drinking diet sodas?
As a child.
Really?
My parents were big. I think your household is what kind of like shapes you as a kid right there on the drinks. And from a marketing standpoint, most people take the beverage that they drink for the rest of their life as their go-to. Mm-hmm. Happens when you're like 11 through like 14. That's from a marketing standpoint. So that's why like Pepsi and Coke really hit that demographic hard when you're growing up. But I was given Diet Coke at like 4 years old. And my parents bought 2 liters, which is just like an abandoned thing that no one does anymore. But we had like 10 2 liters of Diet Coke in our house every single week. It was embarrassing.
Damn.
Yeah. So anyways, Diet Mountain Dew is my go-to now, though.
Okay.
That's been my favorite.
2 liters of Mountain Dew. We recently had a guy join our team, and he's down like 11 pounds in 2 weeks. And he told us he was drinking a 2 liter of Mountain Dew every day, and we just cut that out.
Like, oh, yeah. Weird enough.
Yeah, you must feel fantastic.
Like you're paying me to tell you not to drink Mountain Dew every day? This is amazing. Sorry.
But I was thinking about that. So I never like drank diet sodas before. I also grew up calling it pop, so that's a recent development.
Yeah,
no worries.
Hey, me too.
No stress. Call it pop all you want. I'm not going to hate.
For some reason, diet pop doesn't roll off the tongue as much.
It doesn't.
But it's advertised as zero sugar, and then some are advertised as diet. And I feel like that's so smart because growing up, my parents drank diet, but I wouldn't because I'm like, well, I'm not on a diet. I don't need to drink diet.
Totally.
And looking at that, I'm like, well, that's different.
Yeah.
But even though it's the exact same concept.
Yeah.
It's smart.
I think how we're perceiving diet as a kid is totally different, right?
I used to think
you're clearly trying to lose weight if
right.
you're drinking diet, and it's like, no, like I'm just trying to lead a more healthy lifestyle here. It's totally different feeling. So
absolutely.
I remember as a kid, I didn't start drinking diet soda until me and Jeff opened Overland Park. Basically, he would drink copious amounts of Diet Mountain Dew and Diet Dr. Pepper. Yeah. And we were working so much. I was like, dude, give me one of those. Let's just hammer, and then we started buying.
We started getting
30 racks of them like every other day.
When we went to we went to Sam's Club. It was like our one treat.
Yeah, we were like, this is the only good thing in our life is we can drink these diet sodas. But I grew up drinking regular soda, and I would drink a diet soda, and I was like, this is terrible. And then I got into fitness, and I was like, holy shit, I shouldn't be drinking any soda. Right. So I cut it out all the way. And then when I came back and was drinking diet soda, when Jeff gave me a delicious diet Dr. Pepper, I was like, this is phenomenal. I love this. It's delicious.
It definitely kills a sweet tooth. I mean, especially, man, this A&W zero sugar, that is like a go-to at night. And ironically, my girl Hannah, she does never drink diet soda like until she met me. And now she's like a regular diet Dr. Pepper every night girl because it keeps her from wanting to have something worse, if that makes sense.
Do you get, because we get this obviously in the store a lot, do you get a lot of your members that are like, oh, I shouldn't do diet soda. It's worse than regular soda. Do you get that?
Yeah. And I can't like go into the weeds of why. I actually had a conversation with my chiropractor about this recently, but just from a strict macro standpoint, I mean, I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah. I always tell people like this really simply. I'm like, well, if you think about like the chronic illnesses that kill people at the highest rates in America, they're all associated with overconsumption of calories and being obese. And if you think about like if diet soda could possibly have some kind of negative consequences, it's not even the top 100 things that kill people. So if you had to weigh the two on what's more dangerous, then you should probably go with the diet, you know?
Yeah, I get that a lot. I eat a lot of deli meat, and on Instagram, I'll get hell in my feet or in my DMs, and they're like, "What about the sodium?
Nitrates?
The nitrates?
Like, yeah. And I'm like, well, I mean, let's prioritize the basics here. We're over consuming fats by like 4 times. I can see your food log, so we'll scratch the surface of sodium later on once we get, first things first. But people get so into the weeds of that, and I think it's just because they want it to be overcomplicated because if it's over their head, then they don't have to delve into it.
Yeah.
Right. It's like,
there's also,
they have to ask that question, right? Like, what about this? It's like, hey, if you need to say that, then you obviously have like already some kind of like bad relationship with food here. Like everything in moderation, man. Like clearly, look at me. I'm okay.
I'm not talking about your members here, but it's funny that like with those hot button topics, a lot of times the people that know the absolute least are the most like gung ho about it. They're like,
Dunning-Kruger effect.
Oh, you couldn't do sodium. And you're like, I exercise every day and sodium is great for exercising.
Right. Yeah.
What's the Dunning-Kruger effect, Kyle?
The more you know about, the less you know about something, the more that you think you do, correct? And the more that you know, the less that you actually feel like you know. Right?
Correct. It's the more that you learn about something, the more you recognize that you don't know anything about it.
There's a chart for it.
So it's like the classic example for all of our listeners. And let's be clear, all of us are guilty of this. Okay. 2 weeks ago, Lexi was an expert on submersibles.
That's true.
She was like totally deep into the
Not
where
as
they're
deep
at.
as the people in the submersible.
That's right.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is Dunning-Kruger effect.
Only 12,000 feet
occurs when a person's
deep.
lack of knowledge and skills in a certain area cause them to overestimate their own competence. And so the classic of like we all think like this is like if you've watched one documentary on something, you immediately start talking to all your family members. Hey, you need to stop eating meat. I watched this vegan documentary. I watched these cows get slaughtered.
It's
can't
over.
Can't eat meat anymore.
Meat's done.
So anyways, like that's it's a common thing. So it's like somebody must have heard from somewhere somehow that like if you overconsume sodium, blah, 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 but then they like ate sushi that night or something.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think the same as like people get on cholesterol with eggs. That's another common one.
Mm-hmm.
Can't have too much of that.
Yeah. And
but they're taking fish oil.
I eat like 8 eggs a day. I do that all the time.
I talk with my hands a lot, so I'm going to try not to spit.
It's all good.
I need the oat. Like,
outside of fitness, where this happens the most is football, and it drives me up a wall.
Oh yeah, Monday morning quarterback,
like, dude. You have such strong opinions on the game last night, and you know nothing about. You don't even know where the safeties are on the field.
Yeah. They're like, dude, you should have blitzed there,
dude,
or whatever.
Idiot.
Speaking of football,
oh yeah, you probably know more than Andy Reid, I would guess.
Lexi's a fan of football, is that right, Lexi?
Big football.
Huge football fan. Lexi's been adorned with one of the greatest gifts known to man or woman.
This is actually why I'm on the podcast. My claim to fame.
This is actually why we asked Lexi to be here today. If you guys didn't know, Lexi has received a pass from Patrick Mahomes. If you didn't know.
Yeah?
If you didn't know.
I actually did know that.
It gets even cooler.
Not just any pass.
What was thrown to you? And just to be clear, Lexi caught it. That was a huge deal. You can't just drop that.
I know.
Right? You only get one
You
pass.
would have screwed up the whole wedding.
Oh, we prepped for it. I was like, this pass is not a big deal to you, but this is it.
This is the only pass I'm ever going to remember.
Me.
Yeah. So she caught, what did you catch? Let's tell the story, please, to us.
I caught a Busch Light from Patrick Mahomes, and we shotgunned together. Actually, that's not true. It was not a Busch Light.
Coors Light.
It was a Coors Light.
I was about to say, that's his sponsor.
Patrick couldn't even be holding that can. Yeah. He would never be caught dead holding a Busch Light, right? But you got to shotgun a beer with Patrick Mahomes. How'd that go? How'd that work out?
It was pretty wild. Just by happenstance, one of my best friends went on a mission trip and is from Kansas City area, fell in love with a boy from Texas who happened to be the cousin of the man that is the savior of Kansas City.
That's right.
I got to walk with him in the wedding. It was so cool because Sam, my friend, had called me when I was still working as a hygienist, and she was like, hey, just wanted to let you know, like, I figured you would handle it the best. You know, you're going to be walking with Patrick. And I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. Oh, well, I got to go. I've got a patient coming. I hung up the phone, and I'm like, Dad! I'm FaceTiming my dad, and he's freaking out.
What year was this again?
It was 2021.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he by that point
he already won an MVP.
He was full on
MVP.
best player in the NFL by that point.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome though.
Awesome that he was close enough with his cousin to be in the wedding and everything, and like make that work time and energy wise.
And honestly, like everyone did such a great job. The DJ
no one bothered him like in a weird way. You know?
My nephew was he like went into the bathroom at the same time when he's like 10 years old, so I'm solidified as the coolest aunt ever.
Yeah,
because I got him an invite to this wedding. But the DJ went over and they're like, obviously we have a celebrity in the house, but he's here as a family member. If we can't respect his privacy, then he's gonna have to leave. And they were so cool about it.
Everybody was cool after that.
Yeah, I mean they're cool. Like it's cooler to be at the wedding with Patrick Mahomes and know that he's there than like to be there for 5 seconds and ruin it.
Yeah.
The picture wasn't worth it.
Yeah,
for sure. That's awesome. There's that story about him in Kansas City. He was eating pizza with his wife after like they had already won a Super Bowl and everything, and he like stood up at the end and was just like, "Hey, everybody, we just want to say thank you guys so much for just like letting us have dinner tonight and no one coming up and talking to us. Like we just really appreciate it. It's why we love this city so much." And
I love that. He exceeded all expectations. Like the coolest, down to earth guy. Him and Brittany were both great.
Love to hear it. Yeah, we've heard nothing but good things.
He's dominating some golf right now.
Yeah, it was
freaking good
tonight.
at golf too.
That's
Stop
tonight.
being good at everything, Patrick Mahomes. God, dude.
Yeah,
he just got done with his. He won his own tournament for the 15 in the Mahomes. Yeah,
that's by design, right? We'll see. But
I don't know if you can fake winning a golf tournament, but possibly.
They're actually picked to lose this golf match tonight. Against he's going against what's his name? This is terrible. Steph Curry and also Klay Thompson.
Oh, okay.
So those two are facing Kelsey and Mahomes tonight in golf for Capital One, the match.
I saw they came in on like a helicopter. Didn't they land on the greens helicopter?
Yeah.
They make it into a big deal.
Imagine the greenskeeper loved that.
No doubt. We got, all right, so we have so many things we can talk on, but I want to start with just what brought you into fitness, because I know you grew up an athlete. What made you actually start to look at fitness differently, where you wouldn't look at it so much now as like a sport and training for a sport and being sport specific and more about just everyday life?
Yeah, I think for most of us, just growing up, fitness is an ends to a mean. You train so you can be better at basketball or volleyball, whatever. And that's how it always was to me. I really enjoyed it. I was like a freaky little kid that I asked for ankle weights like for Christmas. I don't know. I was like, well, if I'm going to jump higher in basketball, I gotta train. So I had an awareness of like process growing up, which I think is kind of unique looking back, thinking about like a kid doing that. It would be just out of the norm. Mm-hmm. But it was definitely like very sport specific growing up. And then in college, I had opted not to play sports in college. I went the party route. And then once I was like getting closer to getting married, I just wanted to be skinny, like just wanted to be a rail. So I started running. I fucking hated running. Made myself like I'm a deal. I can only get on the treadmill, or I can only watch this show that I love if I'm on the treadmill. So I just ran my ass off because I wanted to watch TV.
Did you have that at your house, or were you living in St. Joe at the time?
No, I was in college.
So this is in Columbia, Missouri?
Yeah, so I went to Mizzou. Scandal's an excellent show to binge on the treadmill. But I really didn't get into like fitness or anything until after I was married, and I honestly think it was just because I was miserable in my profession. I graduated with a degree to get another degree, went back to school to start chipping away at debt, and I really just was not fulfilled at all in my my career. I was a dental hygienist.
What made it unfulfilling for you? You know what I mean? I mean, it is one person after another, you know what I mean? But there's so many dental hygienists out there. What made it not for you, you know, personally?
I think that like I sought that out just for the intention of paying off debt. Like I was in so much debt from college, and I remember searching like most high paying jobs with a health science degree. And then I decided to go back to school for dental hygiene because I figured I could get a certification or a license pretty quickly, and just start chipping away. I hated feeling like a freeloader in like our household. I wanted to contribute, and I was bringing in debt, so I just wanted the quickest option there. So, I mean, I'm not one. It's not like the monotony bothered me. Like I live a very monotonous life. I do the same thing every day. So, patient after patient wouldn't typically be something that I was just like, oh, this is, you know, draining. But it just wasn't anything like I didn't feel like I was impacting people's lives. To some extent, I'm sure I was, but it just wasn't in the way that I felt like I could.
It's hard to, well, there's two things. It's like, you know, it is kind of weird when you go to school for such a long period of time and you're like, man, you get into a career and you're like, I need to like this. I need to be like, this needs to work for me. And you're like miserable every day. That is a brutal conclusion that like I had as well, where I was like, man, I'm just not going to be happy in what my degree's in. But also, you know, when you
I was in hospitality. Laugh for a second. Okay, go ahead.
I was working for a company called Resort Quest, and I was basically doing property management, you know, management of property management, and it sucked. Anyways, but also, you know, if you have a job like dental hygienist, it's like, what are you working towards almost?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're just kind of like,
you're there. Yeah.
It's almost like you got to check out and just kind of do your job every day. And it's like, yeah, you know, patient by patient, you view it as you're kind of helping them, but like really it doesn't seem like there's an end or a goal, you know, with that.
Well, the goal could be to not have like to feel, you know, the work-life balance that people look for, right? For some people, that's the perfect job because they know exactly what to expect. When they're done with work, they're never going to get another call.
Oh,
like, hey, get back up here. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I'm there for the time that I need to be there. I got great clients that know me by name and I know them by name, and that's it. And so, like,
for sure,
that's perfect job for some people. You know?
There's definitely some people out there that would like a job like that, but it seems like you wouldn't, you know.
Yeah, but when did you know you had that mindset, Lexi? Because there's so many things I'd like to ask you about regarding, you know, you mentioned that you were bullied growing up, you know, and then choosing not to play a sport, but like you were so good at these sports, right?
Yeah.
So was it like, were you looking for acceptance when you decided to start partying instead of doing the athlete thing?
Absolutely. And I remember I had actually made a post relatively recently because I don't drink like I used to. Like in college, I would throw down. And I do think like it stems back to acceptance. I wanted to have a crazy story. I wanted to, you know, be the life of the party because naturally people just kind of, even if they're not necessarily like attracted to that friendship, like you want them involved because it's going to be like,
fun.
It's going to be a time.
Yeah,
sure,
it's going to be a story. And I think that, that whole experience, it was valuable and it was different than what I was growing up with. I went to a really small school and I excelled at sports. But just through that. And
did you pick that like big college experience because of like this is something I can relate to. I played sports in high school. I was decent at sports and I had ability to play in college, but wouldn't have been a D1 school for sure. And so like I picked having a big college experience because I didn't really love my high school experience, right?
Yeah, and I went on a visit for volleyball at Mizzou, but I was a hitter and I'm 5'8", so I'm tall for a woman, but like compared to D1 hitters, I would be 4 inches shorter. Like they're very tall. And I don't think that like maturity I would have handled like not being integral because I definitely would have been at best like a role player. I would not have been a star at D1. And I think like my ego hit at that point. And I can say that looking back, like I wanted to be, you know, a bigger fish. And then I would just kind of opted for that bigger school experience. And I had a great time. I met my husband there. But I've grown so much in the past 5-6 years. And I wanted to point back when you had said like the work-life balance with the dental hygienist. I remember choosing that with thinking like, I don't have to work holidays. I don't have to work weekends. I'll get off at 5. And which is so funny.
Yeah, you don't have to grow up all the way yet.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I mean, like that's the kind of thing that I would think of as in college.
And I was thinking like, because I wanted some sort of fulfillment, I was like, well, maybe we'll start a family, and then I could have that time, towards that. Mm-hmm. And we had talked about this on Brett and I's podcast, my husband, because I'm so grateful that like we didn't end up starting a family back then, just because I think that it would have been out of like
this is the next
trying
thing.
to fill some sort of void.
Yeah,
sure.
And I think like now, if I start a family, like if we decide to have kids, it's because we're both competently standing on our feet, and that's something that we want, rather than something that's like this might solve that itch, or
Sure.
And yeah, I'm so grateful for that experience and not having went down that path, because I do remember thinking like, well, if I have a normal job, then I can be a mom, and maybe that'll fill it or like fix that void.
Tell us about the time, the moment where you decided I'm not doing this anymore.
Dental hygiene.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a conversation with Brett?
Like when I went full time, or when I
guess yeah, you were doing fitness at the same time as dental hygiene for a minute.
Yeah. So
I guess when you decided to make it like full time,
the transition.
So at that point, I had gone. I was balancing Lexi J Wellness and being a hygienist for about 10 or 11 months. And I felt like it was at that point I was just weighing pros and cons. Like, is the time spent, because my hygiene office was an hour away from where I lived, so I was commuting 2 hours a day, working 8 hours, and I mean, taking 10 hours of a work day as an entrepreneur, like that's just not feasible, especially if you want to grow. And it didn't seem like the time I was taking away from what I was actually getting fulfillment and actually feeling like I was creating impact, that didn't balance out to me. It wasn't worth it. And I felt like at that point it was, just hindering the growth and the opportunity I had in other spheres. So we had that conversation, and it was a scary thing, especially because I still hadn't paid off either of the, my undergrad or my dental hygiene school. And it was still a very big bet. Like, I wasn't established. I was dependent upon like at-home workouts that was kind of born in COVID, and COVID was coming to a close, and people were getting back to normal. So I'm like, are people going to still work out at home? Are they still going to want, minimal?
Are my workouts going to be valuable? Yeah.
Yeah. Was this kind of like a flash in the pan? And I'm thankful Brett believed in me along the way and just saw that I started having that independence and that confidence in myself. And luckily my hygiene office was also very supportive of it. They were great, but I think that they knew that it was a temporary thing when I was there, because I was so ready to get out of there. And I was, on the phone with clients and emailing in between patients.
Yeah. Teeth cleanings.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was half in, like, or half out the door, I think, for those last like 5 or 6 months. Yeah, it didn't weigh out the time that I was spending there, and I was draining myself, and then I wanted to be able to produce the best product for Lexi J Wellness, and spending all that time and getting up at the crack of dawn, it was really affecting the quality. And looking back, I don't think that I would have thought that I was producing a lesser product, but I definitely was, taking 10 hours of your day to do something less.
Did you ever view yourself when you were younger? Did you ever think like, I'm going to be a business owner?
No, I wanted to be something in like medicine for a long time, and then I wanted to be a chiropractor. But entrepreneurship was never like on my radar, even through college. I didn't have any interest in business. All of my friends that were business majors, I thought was stuffy. And it very clearly like presents itself in very different forms. I mean, all three of us are entrepreneurs, and we're not stuffy at all.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, just drinking a diet soda here with a cucumber
in it.
But oh, man, all right. So we're all over the place a little bit. So I apologize to our listeners here, but I want to go back to the bullying part, because some kind of a savage was born inside there. Like you had some people to prove wrong along the way, and I feel like everybody has some of that if they're trying to become hyper successful or ultra successful. And you could have slowed down so many times along the way and been like, oh, this is good. But you guys just keep pushing at Lexi J Wellness and growing and growing. How many members are you guys at right now?
We're just shy of 2,000.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And like just for a marker, February of last year, so just about a year and a few months ago, you guys were at 700.
Yeah.
So So the home workouts thing is not a flash in the pan for everybody listening. The bullying, where does that stem from? Because you weren't like terribly out of shape from somebody who was bullied from being overweight at like elementary school level. Where was this coming from? You feel like insecurity, jealousy?
I think it's a little bit of both. And I think that like specifically in women, empowerment is more of a new thing. At least for the women that I interact with now.
Sure.
I think that it's cool to, hype you up and you want your friends to be successful. But growing up, or at least around a small town where I was from, I don't feel like that was necessarily the case. Like it was either you're it or you're like tearing the person down so you can be it. So looking back, like I was successful in sports early on. I was pretty smart, and a lot of my friends are men. Like I converse well with guys. I'm a football girl. Like I grew up very close to my dad, so like I was always a guy's girl. And I think that can be really threatening for young girls. So I got like my car keyed. My car got keyed like 4 times in high school. My house got egged all the time.
And you never just like made out with some girl's boyfriend or anything? Nothing?
No, I had like 2 boyfriends. And I was not interested in boys all that much in high school.
Sure.
So like my knee pads got thrown in the toilet and stuff. There's a voodoo doll made of me. It's really
how many
funny.
people
These girls were going in with the voodoo doll.
Yeah, like it was like
voodoo doll.
It's like they learned that off of another movie where other bullies did this.
You're gonna
what I mean?
This is a little
That's
too
that's out of I believe like I think there's a Disney movie called like
I was like, Jeff's gonna educate us on this.
Actually, yes, it is a Disney movie called Teen Witch.
This is where I'm gonna bully
you.
I'm gonna bully you for your Disney knowledge.
Why would go ahead, man? I'm proud of this.
Yeah,
I'm
Teen Witch, dude.
I'll win every trivia match over this. Teen Witch.
Dang.
There it is. There's the voodoo doll. The dude went through a car wash because of this voodoo doll. Anyways.
She never knew this is where it came from.
Yeah, they weren't even
She was like,
creative.
well, it kind of makes me feel better that they got it from a movie.
Yeah, they weren't even creative bullies. So you had a really strong coach in high school, Coach Firking, I believe. Did I say it right?
Yes.
How did that impact you with this bullying?
Did anybody ever mess that name up?
So it's spelled even worse. It's FR is how it starts. So it looks like Frerking. It's FRER. He was not like a sensitive, like a, put me under his wing type of guy. He's a tough love guy. So it kind of just fostered like that hard mentality. Like, I mean, if he's very good at producing operators, I think. Like you're either someone that is going to really fall in line with that and like dive into it, which I think I did just because early on I think that he was like my first source of self-development. David Goggins-ish.
Sure.
We call it being Firkinized. Like you're either Firkinized or you want nothing to do with it.
Or you quit.
Literally.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had like a heel spur and he would call me Cupcake. He's like, so you not practicing Cupcake or like limping around. Yeah, he was a hard ass. And I think that he made me a little bit of a hard ass. And it was one of the early experiences with like, it's kind of cool to be on your own. It's kind of cool to not blend in. And the reason he pointed out, the reason that, that you're being, I was about to say, is it ostracized? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason you're being ostracized is not,
singled out, if you will.
It's not, it's not a diss to you. It's more of a compliment to you and
these are the crabs in the bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says much more about them.
Right.
So he was
so
was
hard
one of
to
the
see
guys
though at 14, 15 years old.
That basically helped you get through the bullying.
Inadvertently, I think, yeah.
He basically toughened your skin.
Yeah.
He calloused you through mental toughness in other areas. So it's like, listen, if he wasn't challenging you so much, you could probably sit with the discomfort that these girls were causing you at the time a lot more so. You don't have time to think about it. You're over here like trying to catch your breath because he's having you run or he's having you,
And he was one that was like, he was hard on you, and he's like, if at any point I stop being hard on you, that's when I stop caring. And that was kind of like, it clicked with me. I'm like, okay, well, he expects a lot from me. And I think that in the team environment that I was in, where they kind of wanted me to be a little bit less than in order to sit in line and just not threaten anyone else's position, like him expecting that and asking more of me made me own up to my own potential and kind of set higher standards and say, well, I mean, it's not cool that you guys are slacking. It's not cool that you guys shave reps. And
not touching the line.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have 2 daughters, and my oldest daughter, I have had to, the unfortunate where she comes home from school and she's like, so-and-so said this to me. She's got really curly hair, said something about her hair, something like that.
So sad.
Which as a dad, you're like,
you want to kick their ass.
I'll go, who was it? Who was it at your school? I go pick you up all the time. Who was it?
For real,
but what advice would you what advice would you give me to give to them as they grow up? And no matter what, when you're a parent, your kids are going to get made fun of. They're going to go through hard times. They're going to have issues. What's the best advice that I should give them, or how should I support them when that happens?
I think that having that awareness that when people make fun of you, it says way more about them than it does about you. Mm-hmm. And also realizing that it is so much cooler and so much more, I mean, no one that makes history, no one that does anything spectacular is common. It is really neat to be unique and to stand out, and that's something to be proud of. So I think that it's so hard, especially when the last thing you want to do when you're young is to stand out. But to dive into those differences and the things that make you unique, because that's what makes history. That's the biggest deal.
Very true.
Don't disagree.
Very true.
But I would want to kick her ass.
Yeah.
When I was like in 6th grade, my little sister was in kindergarten, and we would like buddy up, like the older kids would read to the younger kids. And my best friend in 6th grade was a guy, like my best friend from kindergarten to high school, whatever. And this little boy in my little sister's class called her Chubby, and they were playing like, what's the ring around? No, Duck Duck Goose.
Duck Duck Goose. Yeah, run around the circle.
And I told him, and I'm like, we're gonna kill this little kid. So they're running around the circle, and we like trip this kid every time he runs around. I'm like, you're gonna learn.
I love that.
So funny.
Where is that? Where's Coach Furking now? Does he know about the impact that he's had on you?
I saw him at a wedding a few years ago, and that was when I was like just getting started with Lexi J Wellness, and it was kind of cool just because he had shifted, like he left our school soon after, but we had talked. He was really proud. It was neat.
That must have been a really fulfilling moment. That's cool. You're on this path now where you get to be this person that Furkinizes women, right? Did I say that right?
Yeah.
So what is it that you're doing that makes Lexi J Wellness so impactful? Because so many, when I say so many, I mean like endless amounts of trainers are online. We know so many. And they're all great people. There's nothing I can say negative, but what makes you so unique, Lexi? What is Lexi J Wellness doing for these women that's making them sign up in droves? And not only, sign up, but stick around and stick around for the culture. And I mean, there's people with Lexi J Wellness tattoos.
Yeah, which is wild.
Can we pull that up somehow, Luke?
Yeah, we've got some domino tattoos.
Yeah.
It's absolutely the culture and the community, and I think that it mimics a lot of what you guys do, because it's a relationship first thing. I'm definitely not too naive to admit you can Google or YouTube, Pinterest, whatever, a dumbbell only workout, but they don't have someone talking to them. They don't have that connection where it's full length. So you're going to hear about my day. You're going to hear about what Brett and I are doing this week. You're going to hear about how I did not want to get out of bed, and that relatability is invaluable. And it's that authenticity, I think, that like I show up in every form, which I mean, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it also feels like in a world where you may not have that person that's going to hold you accountable, it feels like you've got a friend there with you. And I think that's huge. And then just once you get going with that community, that you're looking virtually to your left and right and seeing people that are navigating the same experience with you. You've got college students that have a full workload. You've got moms at home. You have, we have everyone up to age like 65, and it's neat because you can find someone that is very similar to you, and it's so empowering to see, okay, well, if they can do it, then I can do it too.
Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning into the podcast. Kyle and I really appreciate your support. We've been doing this for a really long time, and we want to let you know that we do this completely free. We don't run ads. We're not asking for anything from you guys except for one thing, and that is to pay it forward. Please tell a friend. Please give it a share. Please give it a like if you found any value in our podcast. We do this 100% to support local fitness, and so if you in turn appreciate and support local fitness, we hope that you do share the podcast with somebody who could get value in it. Now, let's get you back to the episode. If you have one person that you could, if I said, give me one person's testimonial that really encapsulates what Lexi J Wellness is about, who comes to mind for you?
I shared one recently. Candace Sanborn yesterday, or I think it was yesterday. I shared it, and she's actually the first person. Oh, there it is. She was the first person that started saying to the moon, and she has navigated just mental battles, physical battles. She's down probably 60 pounds from the beginning. Can you play it?
We'll put it right here on the YouTube.
Far more mental. I've grown leaps and bounds as a person. I'm a better human. I'm a better sister. I'm a better friend. I'm a better business owner. So it's definitely impacted my life. Oh my gosh, Lexi's amazing. I was actually talking to another girl this morning about how amazing it is that LJW has completely changed and impacted our life. But in the same token, it's really neat to look back at the last 3 years and see how much Lexi has changed. It's just been this constant transformation and growth, and it's incredible to see that she lives that example. She sets that example, and she does it every day. Lexi J Wellness changed my...
I had a conversation with her shortly. So she started in 2020. She started in September. So I had been doing Lexi J Wellness not long at that point. But we always talk about, like, okay, we're doing this for future us. The things, the seeds we're planting today are for fruits later on. We're not going to see it. And it was really cool because she had done 75 hard, and she got to the end. She's like, I think I want to keep going. And she ended up doing 100 days, and I don't know the statistics on how much weight she had lost or whatever, but body composition changed, just mentality changed. She started her own business, and she was like, this is the first time in my life I feel like I'm becoming that future self that I had thought about before, which is just really neat to be a part of. And especially, she's also someone that in the past had said she didn't feel like she fit in with the fitness community, and I think that's a big deal also, because in Lexi J Wellness, you're going to have people in all shapes, forms, and sizes, all fitness levels. And I think that the fitness industry makes it very exclusive, where, especially on social media now, if you don't have rock hard abs, if you don't have big fake boobs, if you don't have like the perfect body, then it can feel really isolating, especially to getting started. So I do think with me starting in COVID and everyone being at home, that was kind of like a simple way to get your foot in the door with fitness, because I mean, you can kind of get your feet wet with it, or at least start stacking some wins before you were immersed into actual fitness culture.
Yeah. The gym, I mean, is one of the number one places that makes people not get into fitness. So if you're cutting that out and you're saying, hey, you can get in great shape at home, I mean, that's half the battle for a lot of people. Yeah. And then also creating a culture of accountability. You know, we always tell with our guys here, I'm like, I don't care what kind of advice you give somebody. I don't care what, information you give somebody. All of that really doesn't matter if you don't give them support along the way, because, if you give somebody the best advice and then they're going home to a family that's all like, you want to go to McDonald's tonight? You have to give them support. You have to be the person that is expecting more of them. And I feel like you guys do a really good job of creating that kind of culture.
Thank you.
Is like just
that.
Making people feel not only accountable, but like included, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is, in order to adopt a behavior, you need to join a culture where that behavior is considered normal. Mm-hmm. And like you said, if you're going home to people that are eating McDonald's and they're sedentary, it's so hard because it feels like you're getting pulled back. But if you're
they're inviting you into that, of course.
Yeah, because also back to insecurity and projection. I mean, if you're the only one that's doing something different, then they're going to look at you as if you're changing, you're leaving, you're too good for us now. And it's hard if you don't have those same people that are going through that same thing and to hold you accountable, because it sucks when your family feels like you're too good for them and they vocalize that.
Mm-hmm. And with that being said, that's a really great transition to, the success that you've experienced has been, I think in the business world, I would say it's relatively rapid. You've had very quick success. And I know that you maybe aren't where you want to be, and we can get to where you would like to be later, but you're not having to stress about certain things financially that you maybe once did. I'm assuming that debt has got a big dent out of it now. And so with that being said, it's like, what are those, I guess, those tougher conversations, or maybe times that you've spent with around friends and loved ones have you had to finally face someone who really just hasn't been happy for your success?
I don't think that it's necessary. Well, I'm sure that there are a good number of people that aren't happy for my success. Someone out there still has a voodoo doll, I bet.
Sure.
But it's more so like sharing time and understanding that it's not the 9-to-5 dental hygiene job. I don't necessarily have all the weekends off and things like that. This was actually something that I really struggled with earlier. I mean, honestly, earlier this year, I had a hard conversation with someone in my family, and they're like, it feels like you're leaving us. It feels like you're never available. And that was a gut punch because they are incredibly important to me. But I feel like this overwhelming urge that I have I'm indebted, and I have something that I can contribute to all these women and people that I haven't reached yet. But recently it was, so my dad is a big part of, why I got started and stuff, but it was a conversation that I had with him, where I think he was just kind of like vocalizing how the rest of my family felt. I wasn't able to I can't remember. It was like a football game or something. They were tailgating. And it sucked to hear. And recently at my 3-year anniversary event, I had one of my speakers, his name's Damon West. He's phenomenal. And he shared like the coffee bean message that he preaches, and it really hit home for my dad. And since then he has been on fire about this coffee bean message. And we were talking on the phone the other day, and he was talking about how he was implementing this. Like, he's a fire captain, how he was implementing it with his shift and how he got to talk to other shifts.
Can you please enlighten us on the coffee bean?
What's the coffee bean?
Yeah, so Damon West is actually, I heard of him on Ed Milet's podcast. I listened to it. It was great. He was in prison for 8 years for armed robbery. He was also addicted to meth. And when he got he had met someone in prison or before he went into prison, and they said he was asking advice on like, okay, how do I navigate this? Because he was like a 60-year sentence. This little white guy from Texas, like, he was a little bit worried about how to, go into prison. And one guy said you need to be a coffee bean. And when you throw an egg in water, it hardens. When you throw a carrot in water, it softens. When you throw a coffee bean in water, it changes the environment. So you need to be a coffee bean. That's the deal. It's just to infect the culture around you for the better.
Yeah.
And it was an awesome speech. So I had met him on Instagram. He's one of my clients now, which was neat because he's on the road like 24 days of the month.
This guy's like hyper successful too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he got out early, and now he's a keynote speaker. So he was my speaker at my event, and it just really hit my dad. And he started implementing this with the culture at the fire department, and he's been so excited about it. And we were on the phone, and I was like, the way that you feel about him is the way that a lot of people feel about me. And I think that kind of okay, well that put it into perspective of why that's such a time commitment, why that is such a big deal to me, that I invest every ounce of my effort into it, because I don't have a lot of hobbies outside of work. And I think that a lot of people think that that's a little unhealthy, but I can't think of anything else I would rather do, really.
Right. Yeah. It's not. It's
Alex
just
Termazzi, he says that very clearly in a lot of his content. He's like, why would you make me do something else when I like to work?
Just so I could. Yeah. It's like an objective measure of what makes you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, I think that it was something that he had posted at one point where he was like, you want me to implement something that I'm less interested in just for the sake of saying I have other hobbies, and I have never related to something more.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, why would I do that? I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
It's just, and it's not that I don't want to spend time with family. It's that I'd rather be more impactful here.
I also think, I don't know what your plans are long term, but I'm guessing that at some point or another, you're going to build out some kind of systems that basically will give you some time back. And there's always investment, whenever you're starting a business, it's like there's a lot of investment up front. There's a lot of time investment up front, and there's not really any way to get around that. Me and him basically threw away our entire 20s working, to get to the point where we're at now. And, there's in a lot of businesses, there's not a lot.
With every single person along the way being like, you really still doing that?
Yeah.
You really think that's going to pay off?
Don't you have a college degree? What are you doing? You're working at
still working at that vitamin store? Yeah. I mean, and it's like, dude, I don't blame those people for thinking that.
Lexi, real
way.
quick.
Yeah.
May I?
Oh, absolutely.
No, man. What I was going to say is you're in a spot now where it's like, okay, let's be real. Like, where do we want this to go? Because your home gym's going to change. I know you're building a beautiful home right now. And it's going to have a new beautiful gym in it, and the new workouts are going to be recorded there. Is that right?
Yes, I'm excited about that.
What's what does growth look like for Lexi J Wellness?
So one of my big goals, because you had mentioned like the student loan is no longer an issue. It's something that like weighs on me anymore. But I want to build my team out. I want to build a team that is financially free and they feel good about that. That's like the big goal right now, is just to put them in a position where they're financially successful also, which means that I'm going to work even harder and dedicate more time in order to support them. I would love to have an HQ of some sort, just a place where I can have so I do have an assistant, and I have 2 people that work in the app with us on nutrition. And the few instances, we're kind of all spread out right now, but the few instances that we do get to work together and collaborate, it is just so energizing.
I bet.
And I think that would be awesome. It would be really cool also to have retreats there as we grow. That way we can bring more people in and do that, like join the team, experience what it's like to be on the Lexi J Wellness team, which we did this past weekend. It was really fun.
We need to get something going in the North Kansas City.
You could do have you thought about doing like what comes to mind is like Matt Vincent's little gym that he has that's really sweet. What's he called? Dope Gym.
Department
Have you
of
seen
Personal
that?
Excellence.
But it's like he's got like a little hub. So he owns Not Dead Yet clothing brand, which used to be the Hate Brand clothing brand, and Hate Brand clothing. But he's got a gym in St. Louis, and it's called the Dope Gym, and it's really cool looking. But
Department of Personal Excellence.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So, but anyways, I think it would be cool to have something that's a beacon of your culture. Whether that's a gym of some sort that's like a public, like he invites people into
Sunday service.
On Sunday service. So like he invites
cool.
people, like anybody who wants to come come in on Sunday. We train on Sunday or whatever.
We don't make you sign a waiver. We don't make you sign up here. We won't make you do any of this or that. It's just more or less like there is no hook. There is no sales thing.
It's just like a beacon of culture.
Yep.
I love that.
Just show up if you'd like to. So, that's pretty basic.
Eventually, I think that, I will expand. So right now I am the sole worker outer.
Yeah.
Worker outer.
It doesn't, that's the truth.
And I think that we'll expand. I won't be the only show pony at some point, and we can go into different avenues. I think right now the company that owns the minimal equipment at home space is Beachbody, but I think that they lose a lot of integrity because of their model.
Of course, multi-level.
Yeah, and the multi-level, and people get in that are ill-equipped and just for discounts.
The level of care that you're talking about, that what you do so well, is the thing that they could probably use the most.
Absolutely.
Right.
And it's the thing that people love about us. So, capitalizing on their biggest weakness and my biggest strength, I think that'll be what.
So you're talking about coming out with Lexi J Wellness fitness equipment in the future?
Maybe. Does it have the name LJW, or does the future of LJW brand, as big as you'd like it to be? Or do you have different ideas as far as the name goes?
I like Lexi J Wellness. I actually thought on Lexi J Wellness for so long it's very basic, but I threw on like fitness and shredded and all of this stuff.
It's not nearly as cutting edge as Supplement Superstore. Sorry. Go ahead. No one could think of that.
Most plain.
But you don't have to think. You're like, what do those guys do?
Yeah, there's no questions there.
Yeah.
Just because, especially during COVID, like people were depressed and they were lonely, and the wellness side of things, like we offer the workouts and they are extremely effective, but like that community gives you, it's so energizing, and it gives you that, oxytocin that where you feel like you're part of something, you're bonding. And that's half of health in itself, is just taking care of yourself mentally. Mm-hmm. So I was really particular about Lexi J Wellness when I chose that name, and I like it. A lot of people, rebrand or talk about that. I'm not to that point yet, because
when they're not the show pony, in your words, it's understandable. Like, well, it's not Lexi anymore. It's not Lexi out there. Yeah. And it's okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like Jenny Craig, if we all go back to the 90s of hearing the Jenny Craig commercials, it's like, no one ever talked to Jenny.
You're right.
It didn't matter, So I think you're just fine.
It's a good point.
you know.
You'd be the new Jenny Craig. I'm sure that's exactly
where you want to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, she's probably ridiculously rich, but
I don't even know. Honestly, God,
is this a real person?
I don't know what Jenny Craig
does Jenny Craig look like anything? You know, I mean, like I just remember her. That's how great her commercials were when you're 7, 8 years old. Growing up, there was like 1-800 call Jenny Craig or call Jenny or something. Like
I haven't had one of these in so long, and it's so good.
It's delicious.
It's so good.
It's delicious.
Dear God,
you put the root beer float Formula One in it.
That is not at all what I expected of Jenny Craig.
Hey,
there's Jerry Craig buyer.
All I'm just saying is, you know, give Lexi 30 more years in that haircut.
I have a niece. My niece is 10 years old, and our personalities are so similar. And I'm like, if I can just, when she's 18, she could take.
Yeah, you give her the baton a little bit,
right?
you know,
pass it along.
Yeah.
Hire her in, teach her the ways.
She's been in workouts, and so I have 2 nieces, and one of them does not like being in front of the camera, does not like that spotlight at all. And then Holloway gets in front, and she's like,
her name's Holloway?
I'm in.
Holloway,
That's a pretty name.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So you mentioned being a guy's girl growing up and just very, you know, very easygoing when it came to hanging out with boys, but girls were just more catty for you. What's it like now being so influential to so many women?
Isn't it wild?
That's kind of strange, right?
My family thinks it's hilarious. It's counterintuitive to my entire upbringing. It is cool. And I think that it's that shift where empowerment, and I matured for sure, where I was no longer like, you know, cutthroat. Have to be the top dog here, where I think it's really cool to see other people win. And that was definitely a maturity and a mindset shift where it is like your success does not impact mine whatsoever.
Right. Your light doesn't dim mine.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was something that it took me a little bit to kind of figure out. And once I did, I'm like, oh, this is really cool to cheer people on. It's really cool to see you win.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people specifically, and I am speaking specifically with women where we've had issues, just like, you want them to win if they're less than you, but when they kind of get even with you, then it's not as cool, right?
Sure.
Like when they start surpassing you, then I'll cheer a little less hard for you. But it is really unique, and I think that up until this point, we always call it like the unicorn of the internet. Like Lexi J Wellness is a very special place because like they genuinely want you to win. You haven't met these women in their entire lives, but like they actually clap for you. They actually want you to succeed, which I think is unique. But being influential in women like that area is not what I expected at all of my life. I'm glad it happened though.
Do you have, with that being said though, you have these women clapping for each other and so forth, but there's gotta be, you know, is that something that you feel like you have to teach, or is it because the culture is already there? Is it like self-regulating where you don't have to tell anybody, hey, this is how we do things? Do the core values help there?
Have you had to kick anybody out is really the question.
I'm sure. I mean, like, there's always an outlier. But for the majority, though, the big question here is, does it self-regulate the culture there? Or is it something where you have to, like, when you get introduced, if I'm getting onboarded into Lexi J Wellness, or we're a community of positivity, we don't have any room or space for people being unhappy for others' success, so on and so forth.
Yeah, thankfully, I haven't had any, like, public... you know, in the group where people were being rude or hateful or anything. I do think it self-regulates because at that point, like, you have so much momentum going for you where it's an outlier if you're rude. It's the norm is to be supportive and to be empowering and uplifting.
Man, that is not the internet. That's amazing.
Yeah, truly. I had someone message me yesterday and she was like, I recently found out I was pregnant, so I joined like this Mommy 23 group, and she's like, those bitches were hateful. Like, I didn't think you were serious about how like catty people are on the internet. And she was like, they were just all pregnant women.
Yeah, but here's
no
the
risk
thing.
Of getting punched for what you say on the internet.
There's also an investment. You know, if you're buying into a culture and you're actually spending money on it and you're investing time and energy as far as like working out, it's probably you're less likely to go into that and have a negative attitude towards it all the time versus like if you just join a random, you know, mom group, which doesn't cost anything to get in, you just click and they join you. You know what I'm saying? It seems like kind of a different deal. But yeah, from what my wife says, mom groups are horrible.
Yeah.
You
I'm
give
sure
your
there's
you,
gotta be
you
some
feed
positive
your
ones
kids
out there.
that, or you know, it's like, oh, you got your, you know, everybody has so many opinions when it comes to kids. So
scrolling through comments of like Tia Toomey since she had her baby.
Oh
my
God.
gosh. I want to punch people. Just
bro. Yeah, that was pretty bad because she was, you know, she's super pregnant and she's doing like clean and jerks, and people that have never done a clean and jerk are like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm like, she's the fittest woman on earth. I think she will be able to figure out
Quite
what's
literally
best for her.
awarded such
Yeah.
like 5
I think
times
she'll
in
be
a row
able
or
to
something.
figure it out, better than you, dude, that's never done a clean and jerk.
It's again, that's the internet. So people have to justify what they don't know, and there's that Dunning-Kruger effect again.
So I guess while we're talking about that, let's talk about
First Phorm.
you are a First Phorm athlete. You are the First Phorm athlete of the year. Which is awesome.
Newly crowned First Phorm Athlete of the Year. And just
At
to be
Summer
clear,
Smash.
this is the first time First Phorm has ever done an Athlete of the Year. So
How big is that poster? Do they give you the poster after it's like done? I'd be like, can I have that for my house?
My dad has been like scheming on where to go. I'm like, it's taller than your house. I don't know. He's gonna wrap his truck in it or something.
we got it up on the screen now. The size of it, the scale of it's hard to see.
It is. It's like 30 feet.
Yeah, man. I mean, what an unbelievable day of just like soul filling. Just the amount of work that went into that. Now, I didn't want to speak on your partnership and being a part of First Phorm because the business itself, like the lifeblood of Lexi J Wellness, is obviously you and in the community. First Phorm has played a role, but I want to know how that happened because for so many people listening, we do have, First Phorm is for sure our most popular brand in our stores. It started in supplement superstores for those that are listening that somehow didn't know that. But First Phorm started in supplement superstores. And so to see someone who started off as a fan of the brand, right? Just a user of the brand to then becoming, a sponsored trainer first. Is that right? Is that the phrase they use there? Mm-hmm. And then, just becoming an integral part of the team. How does one go about that? Because for so many people listening, they would love to be able to grow in that partnership somehow.
Yeah, it was such a surreal thing because for so long,
this is the most wild of it all.
Isn't that crazy?
That's getting framed somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Is it already in the process?
It needs to be.
Is it canvassed? Is it? Yeah, you do that metal plate.
I got up there and Sal handed me the mic, and it felt like I had swallowed sand. Like my mouth has never been so dry.
Yeah.
How about that right in?
I'm saying like that. That was one of those things where the moment was just so big, and you don't know it until you're there and in the moment. Yeah. What was that like?
I'm so glad that people recorded it also so I could watch it back because as soon as my name was announced, I have no recollection of what was said. I blacked out. Yeah, I watched the video and I tossed my fanny pack to the person next to me. Didn't see it for 6 hours. I was sprinting up there. It was crazy because for so long, and I had it on my vision board, I didn't know how athletes were announced or how this whole process was done. So I had typed out myself. It said
find it.
It says Lexi, Sal Frisella here. I just imagined I would receive a call from an unknown number and he would be on the other end.
Talk about manifesting.
I saw this post. Yeah.
This is talk about manifesting,
That has to be the way that it's announced, right? He just calls you. I didn't know. But that far exceeded the call from the unknown number I probably wouldn't have picked up. It was unreal, truly. But the whole partnership, it was a long time coming. So I was a fan of the brand and just a loyal customer, I think in 2018. And I had really wanted to be a part of
Shopping at Fit Republic up in St. Joe.
Yeah.
Shout out them just to say. That's where you started, right?
Yes,
Shopping.
That's who introduced me to First Phorm.
Yeah.
So I had wanted to be part of it. I heard about the Legionnaire program and I had applied, got denied. I applied again and I got denied. And I applied the third time and I got denied. And I didn't hear reasoning why. So in my head, I'm you have to be Claire Thomas to be a Legionnaire. I looked up to Claire so much and I'm well, that's the only person. I felt like I had a decent footing of fitness and I was posting at that point a little bit more regularly, but it was whatever. So
did you have members at this time?
No. So okay. I was just posting on Instagram. And I remember the third time I got denied, Brett was they're going to wish they would have, partnered with you or accepted you. And I laughed at that point. I'm yeah, right. So little ways after I started Lexi J Wellness, it was just a Facebook group where I posted the workouts inside the Facebook group. And I had been doing it for about a year. And because I wasn't a Legionnaire, I couldn't supply First Phorm products for my first year anniversary event. So I just reached out to a girl that owned a CrossFit gym that I knew had them. So I'm hey, could you set up a booth? So at my first year anniversary event, I rented out a barn, a wedding barn, and had this girl who sold First Phorm products out of her CrossFit gym, and she had reached out to her coach that was at First Phorm HQ and asked if he would help her set it up. So then I got introduced to him, and he was like, "Hey, have you ever thought about working with First Phorm?" I'm like, "Dude,
weird enough.
I've been trying, yeah."
3 times with denials on each one.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I got my foot in the door, and I earned sponsor trainer. I can't remember how long I had been with them, but sponsor trainer is basically you had just gotten your clients really great results, which that's cool. Because a lot of titles, I think that especially, with the move of social media and stuff, a lot of them are, what you can bring to the brand as far as like a following or who's exposing,
looks,
who are you exposed?
More of the surface stuff we talked about to start with, right?
Yeah. But a sponsor trainer, that is basically saying you're good at your job. You can get people results, and it's a testament to the people I work with.
And truly influential.
Yeah. Which is a big deal. So I thought that was really cool, but it wasn't necessarily like the path that I wanted to go on. So I was really flattered by that, but I actually declined it after like a month. And I basically said, like, I'm super flattered. I really want to be an athlete, and I can still get people results without that title. So I don't need the title. And then I just kept working. And the goal was athlete all along. So it truly is like, it's a testament. When Sal talked about it, he said, you've got people all over, and people drive to congregate and work out. But it's the group, it's the community that gets people. I mean, the people make the party, truly. Mm-hmm. That was our first year anniversary event at the barn.
That's awesome.
This is roughly...
We
just hit the 3-year mark.
Yeah,
so was this just 2 years ago around this time?
Yep, that was 2021.
Do you have any idea when I met you? I feel like it was like July.
It was like July of 2021.
Okay, yeah. It's like right after your 1-year mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. In that, I was wearing like an LJW tank top, and I didn't have anything. I had asked my sister to like iron on LJW letters, and by the end of it, I'm sure it like just said J, like they were curling off.
Right.
We were unofficial, but we had a decent turnout, and I can't remember how many we had at the year mark, but it took off from there. And First Phorm, it complements it really well. And I was looking back, I'm glad it happened in the order it did. That way, I really had solidified those relationships, and I was already a really loyal First Phorm customer, and loved the brand, loved the core values and everything they stood for. So that was kind of just like a seamless implementation, and it gave us another tool to offer better results. So if you have the app to track food, and it's such a good resource, and that was the same app that I started tracking my food first. So I saw results. I'm essentially a product of the app itself.
Luke, bring up her 3-year anniversary photo just to compare it.
I had it on there. There it is.
Yeah, we had.
It looks like it's just towards the top. I mean, it just happened like a few weeks ago. So
crazy, the growth, crazy.
Yeah, and that's just that's obviously not the whole membership, but the amount of people for the listeners on just obviously you have I believe you have a map of every single state that represents LJW as far as in your community, and I think you guys have hit finally all 50.
We've got all 50. Mississippi was holding out on me.
That was the one?
I had Alaska and Hawaii way before I had Mississippi.
Really?
The license plate game.
Yeah.
Mississippi, you didn't see it coming.
We had someone.
Have you ever seen food in Mississippi? Like there's not a lot of people. They're like,
fitness is not
we're
the top
trying
priority.
To eat collard greens and delicious
Can't
foods that
blame
are just straight fat.
Yeah. We had 2 women that drove 26 hours for our 3-year anniversary event.
Where were they from?
They came from Washington State.
Washington State.
My God.
How incredible.
They had a fear of flying, and I was like, I would think after a 26-hour drive, I would buckle up that fear.
Yeah, heaven forbid you stretch after that scenario, driving in the car that long and then to do something fitnessy afterwards.
Yeah, but it was awesome. We had people drive from Washington. We had people fly in from both Carolinas, Florida, just for the event, just to get to see the community in real life. And it was neat. Like, it truly is a testament to the people in the community. There was one, they got like a 20-person Airbnb. None of them had ever met. They were all coming in from different areas, and they left, and they were just like,
best friends.
Like, they're planning trips together. They have a group chat. I'm like, that's so cool.
Yeah,
that is.
And to see how people come together from a community that you created has got to be so fulfilling.
Yeah, I feel like a proud mom.
No doubt, to say the least. There's so we go into you becoming an athlete. there was a lot of trials and tribulations along that path as well, right? I mean, you had to watch other people kind of live out your dreams in the sense of with the brand. And, you know, was there any kind of real measuring stick there, or were you just having to kind of like be patient?
It really, I don't know all that went into it, but I really do think it's just a patience. And that was what I was told the whole time, you know, just be patient. You're doing the right things. Cause constantly I'm someone that wants feedback. Like if I'm not on the right path, like tell me what I need to do. Where can I be better? And it really was, you know, just trust me, be patient. And that's really hard when you are seeing other people that are, you know, reaching points where you want to be, and you feel like you're doing everything right. So it was a great test in patience and practicing that along the way, because it does suck when you're seeing other people and you're like, I feel like I am so deserving. I feel like this, but you know, when you start feeling like you're deserving, I mean,
it can creep into entitlement real fast.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The good analogy Andy has for this is where he talks about baking the cake. You had all the ingredients right. You had the stove set to the right temperature, but unfortunately, it just takes what it takes as far as time.
Yeah.
You know?
And you watch other people bake their cake faster, and you're like, well, that's not the same award-winning cake. It's a different cake.
Right.
That's not the cake that you wanted. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so that's the toughest part. We try to explain that to our staff, where it's like everything makes sense, and then all of a sudden, somebody that you saw that, you know, showed up to work late one day or whatever, and you know that they were late, and we promote them in front of everybody, and they get all this recognition, and you're like, wow, I've seen that person be late.
Yeah.
Like, they're not perfect, and it's like, yeah, but they're perfect most of the time. And that's okay. Like, people make mistakes. It's okay.
Yeah, and it's that, like,
you're not perfect either.
Playing that comparison game gets sticky really fast.
Oh yeah. I don't know what any kind of pro that comes out of that. Right? Is there any positive that comes out of that comparison game?
No, not much in my experience.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Who's since you're rubbing elbows with all the other First Phorm athletes, who's your favorite First Phorm athlete?
So I looked up to Hannah Jones so much, and I say that past tense. I still look up to Hannah a lot, but it was something where anything she posted on her story, I'm like, that was the best thing that's ever been posted on Instagram. And because I love Claire Thomas as well. But Hannah, for some reason, just felt much more like, she felt like me.
Yeah.
And so she was on my vision board. I thought she was the coolest. I have like a screen recording. I remember of her putting on her story when she had walked into the locker room and she had her locker decked out, which it's cool because now like I've had that experience.
Totally.
But I looked up to her so much. She was on my vision board. And then last year, I got to meet her for the first time, and I told her like I geeked out. And then she had messaged me on Instagram, sent me a voice memo, and it was like I had a horrible day. And I was like, Brett, Hannah Jones just sent me a voice memo. Like, I'm scared to open it. And then I open it and play it. And she's like, hey, I think that we would get along really well. I just had a baby. So my husband's thinking, like, I need to get away, have a little girls trip. Do you want to go on a trip? And I'm like, Hannah Jones just asked me to go on a trip anywhere, literally anywhere. So we got to go, like, we went on a rinky-dink little cruise earlier this year.
Nice.
And it was so cool. It was just the two of us.
What makes a cruise rinky-dink for the listeners? I got to laugh at that.
The best way to describe it is like Walmart on water.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
It was a low-budget cruise. We really didn't do our research. We thought we would be porting, like, on a beach. I thought that was kind of implied. But we ported like in Tijuana pretty much. And
whoa, okay, nice.
We did an excursion where we went and like rode horses, and on the way the tour guide's like trying to distract us away from the businesses that are all like armed with like armed guards outside of the Dollar General.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so much fun though. We got to just get to know each other, and that was surreal for me because it was my vision board coming to life, and now I get to call her a friend, which was an experience that.
So this is what's so cool. All right. So you've had that come true. You've had Sal give you the same kind of call, but in a different, much more elaborate way. Athlete of the year, the first ever. Do you have any like boxes that you haven't checked? How do you get invigorated?
What's
here?
the level up from that?
Yeah.
Right.
And you're allowed to sit in this as long as you want, right? Like, I'm not trying to imply that you need to be chasing something new, but I know who you are.
Right.
You're an achiever. What's next?
So I really getting my employees in a good position, just a comfortable position, that's top tier. But I want to be Forbes 30 under 30 individual goals. However, I didn't know. Do you know how it's like organized?
The 30 under 30?
Yeah, it's organized by category. So it's like there's 30 in media, 30 in science, 30 whatever.
So there's gonna be 30 in
30
fitness.
in fitness.
Well,
yeah.
and they don't have a fitness category.
I didn't think so.
They have like
they don't have a fitness category.
I don't know what, because I was looking at it, I'm like, oh, there's not really.
Yeah,
a
Kylie got to
perfect
be in
fit.
that. You know, Kylie Jenner.
I don't know what it would be categorized as.
Yeah.
I'm assuming somewhere in the
There's like a social impact one. I think there it is.
retail and e-commerce could be one. No, she'd be in like the
Social
could
media.
be social. Could be social media. Could be social impact. But it also could. I mean, you could really just kind of put them in a lot of these different categories. Could be called healthcare. You know.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I thought that it was like 30 people total, but there's a lot more categories. 30 under 30.
I know a dude in the finance world that was in the 30 under 30, and he's a really good dude.
The Balance Athletica, those women were 30 in their 30s.
Okay, what category did they go into? I guess e-commerce.
I'm guessing
Retail and e-commerce.
Yeah.
Who were those gals again? They were with First Phorm.
Taylor Dilk, and I'm not sure what her partner,
Taylor and
I think
Steve
is,
Dilk.
Yeah, and I think her partner is Chloe Chamberlain. If I
Okay,
remember correctly.
but it was Taylor that was like with First Phorm.
Yeah,
correct. Yeah, is she still with First Phorm?
I think so. I've never met her, but I hear that name often.
She's been to some of like the banquets. You know what I mean? That's all I've ever seen him at.
What's the so for people who are listening, you know, who might be interested in trying to get on with First Phorm in some capacity, what's the best perk of being a First Phorm athlete, and then also what is the number one thing you would give, number one piece of advice you'd give somebody that is trying to do that?
I think the best perk is the relationships. Like, I have so many good relationships. Jarrett Bond and Sam Funderburk are my main contacts at First Phorm, and they're phenomenal. Like, they go above and beyond, and it's truly like they bring me in like family. We had a pool party at Jarrett's house when I brought challenge winners in, just because like he and Sam are just as much of an integral part into my team as the rest of them. But yeah, the relationships for sure. And I think the best piece of advice is once you get in there, just to meet as many people as you possible. It wasn't until this past year or so where I really I developed so many better friendships with people at HQ. And I think it's kind of interesting because a lot of athletes don't necessarily work with clients. A lot of them are like athletes in their own right, where you're Tia Toomey or you're like an Instagram influencer or something like that. Where I do a lot of like the things that I do, I think align a lot more with the people that work at HQ. So I have a good relationship with them because we do similar work. Like I work in the app and they do, some of them work in the app.
You're dealing with people one-on-one.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that really flipped the switch as to like me being more part of the community, part of the culture, being integral into the
you're
like,
shoulder to shoulder with everybody there. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? You're not across the table.
yeah, and
You're not above any of the grunt work, if you will.
Oh no, I'll get my hands dirty. I'm not afraid of work. And being there, like, I think that it accelerates your trust with them a lot more if you talk to them, if you engage in those, because also being outside, and if you have one of those silly little titles that at the end of the day, it is just a title really, some reason it like puts that buffer between you and someone that works in the warehouse, or you and someone that, works the front desk or whatever. And at the end of the day, like, they probably respect you so much. And whether you're a Legionnaire or you're a sponsored trainer or you're an athlete, like, engaging in those relationships, those are some of my best friends now. And those are the people that I talk to most. But I think that the first year I was in the program, I really didn't talk to very many people outside of my coach. And that made the biggest switch, was just developing those relationships horizontally. And it wasn't necessarily like a networking scheme or anything. Like, I was thinking, like, if I, rub elbows with enough people in the warehouse, whatever, I'm going to get athlete of the year.
Yeah.
But it is just, it makes me feel so much more at home, and then it makes me feel more of the culture. And I think that it escalates your value also when you start pouring into those people. And
I want to give you a lot of praise here, because, when I first met you, I said this to Hannah right after I met you. I was like, I just met this girl named Lexi. She was up on a roof. Mark had brought you over with Brett, and it was like, all right, this is was like summer of 21, after the Angel competition bikini fashion show.
Yeah, Brett and I were at a Royals game, and people from HQ, my coach was there. So
yeah, you guys stopped by, and I had a conversation with you on what your like intentions were with the company and so forth. At this point, I was like, I don't know, 14 years.
So you like your dad? What's your intentions with the company?
Yeah. No, just like, what does she want to do? Like, does she want to be the athlete? She want to be a trainer, whatever. And just everything that you had said, I was like, oh, you reminded me a lot of Claire Thomas when I had my first conversation with Claire Thomas, and this was at Andy's house on Summer Smash, and I remember just being like, incredibly humble, just like unbelievable humility. And you guys both had this, made me feel like, oh, okay, you don't know how special you are. This is crazy. You have no idea. And so that means like this humility, and because the hardest thing about what we do is it's we talk about this stuff all the time internally, but it's like you can't fake caring about people. And so like you actually have to be there all the way. You actually have to give them all of your energy and so forth. And for some people, they're always looking for like this shortcut or this like special sauce. And it's like, no, it's literally just one conversation at a time, one handshake at a time, one, trying to invest in somebody else, the energy in the room. And we always say here, people don't care what you know until they know you care. And
Absolutely.
So like, you can't be selling anything until you let them know first and foremost, like, hey, what are we trying to do here first? Right. And so, you had all of this, not afraid to be coached. And like, so people that have any kind of like, let's say a minor amount of success, they want to feel like that respect. Like when they walk into the room, they want to know like, hey, like, I've already been able to do this on my own. I don't really need you guys. I'm partnering with you.
Right.
And there's a lot of that whenever people want to partner with a brand where like, I've already proven myself. I've already, I already know what I'm doing. I don't need to be coached. And so like, you had zero of that. And so I was just like, this is going to work out really well for her.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank
it's just funny. But yeah, I told you this, I'm not surprised at all where you're at. And I think you're only going to continue to do amazing things.
It's really hard to ascend our company, not have very similar core values to who we are, you know? So it's a testament to who you are as a person,
Thank you.
And like I said, and the people in your life, your parents, the coach, Furking. I'm never going to get that right.
No, that's right.
It's perfect. Okay. Furking with an FR. But like,
this is a side note, but I did have a teacher who was Mr. Head, and his first name was Richard. So.
Oh no.
Yeah. I mean, like, he was my unforgivable name.
He was my typing teacher. And dude, we were just brutal to him. We were absolutely brutal to him, and he looked like a Richard Head. He was a big nerd.
He played right into his name, and you know what? There's probably something to people living up to their name.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm serious about that. But on this note, we usually have a segment here that we get into. Is there any other topics we need to talk about?
You had mentioned, I wanted to touch because this is a testament to you. You had mentioned core values, both of you, and I actually left this very space and went home and like started writing Lexi J Wellness core values because there was a conversation that you and I had. I had led
this here?
Yeah, so it was up front. You and I had talked some point last year, and it was when I was having like a staffing issue, and I had to let someone go, and it was basically kind of like our culture weeded them out. It wasn't a great fit, and he was like, well, basically, were you able to point to the core values and say, that's why it's not working?
Yeah, it's not personal.
Yeah, we didn't have any established at that time, but I left here and I was like, we've got to write core values. And it took me forever to write them and like to finalize them, but it is something that I cherish so much, and it was because of that conversation with you.
Well, thank you, awesome. Andy, for teaching me that,
Yeah. It is such an easy North Star though. Once you have them like lined out, then it's very easy to make decisions because you're like, oh, well, I'm just going to pull out the core values.
And that's how the culture actually holds each other accountable.
Yeah.
The core values are established and we all know them. We don't have to be here to point at fingers and say, you did this, you did that. It's like, hey, this is who we are. This is what we represent. That behavior doesn't represent that clearly. And so
we also, and
you're like, oh, you guys are a cult. And it's like, no, but we do have some common beliefs.
We have standards,
Sure. Standards.
We, as you continue to grow and you're going to obviously hire more people too, when we sit down with somebody on a final interview, we slide them those core values and we say, go home, read these over, think about if you can actually live up to these, because I'm not kidding you, we're going to hold you to them every single day. And if you don't want to be held to those, then you don't want this job, And so I think that having those core values is obviously going to make your life a lot easier as you continue to scale your business.
For sure. And I do think to your credit and to First Phorm credit, like Supplement Superstore and First Phorm, there are so many companies that have core values printed on their front door or, you know, in their boardroom, but they don't actively live to them. They don't refer to them daily. And you guys do such a great job of that. Like just interacting with your employees. It's very clear that you all have a common standard and that you uphold it. And if it's not, then it'll be.
And I'll be the first to admit this, and that is that we're not perfect, and that like we mess up these core values all the time. You know, people are by nature imperfect people, right? And so it's so sad to me at times when we lose people, and they'll point to those core values at times and be like, "I know you guys, so and so, he did this or she did that," and you're like, "Yeah, that's gonna happen." You know, it's like, hey, how do we move forward? And right. It's disappointing when people are holding on to those kind of grudges where they're like pointing at a core value and being like, well, I know that person did this. And it's like, yeah, that person grew up. That person was like 18 years old or 19 or whatever. Like we've all made mistakes. It's just about how we learn from them. And hopefully those core values are the North Star that Kyle was talking about that help guide you to becoming a more mature, more emotionally mature person along the way. So I think over time, you'll just know more and more how much those will play such an integral role in the culture and how it polices it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm very, very happy for you. Happy for your success. It's cool to watch. It's cool to watch. You know, like I said, I think Jeff, the first time he told me about you was, it might have been on that rooftop. He's like, dude, she's gaining a lot of traction, you know, and I started following you, and it's like, it's only been this since then. So it's really cool to watch.
True. So we got
a last question for you.
And I'm psyched to hear your opinion on this because we recently had dinner and you had a steak? No. You had a salad.
No, I had
you had a salad because we had appetizers. But
what?
Go ahead.
I'm a picky eater. I like cucumbers a lot. So it extends beyond the cucumbers. I am very picky. I don't eat red meat, not for any belief system. I just don't like the taste of it. And I know that you're going to judge me for that.
Oh my God.
There's no judgment.
Everyone does.
Weird.
It's okay. Yeah, it's weird. It's unpopular. So I had a chicken salad.
Does Brett get pissed when he's like, "Oh, let's go get some steaks," and you're like, "Well,
I mean, he's
like, I'm gonna have."
He got so into barbecuing during COVID, and he just ate copious amounts of barbecue because I like the smell of it. I don't like the taste of it.
He was smoking a lot of turkey. Can you do that?
No, I'm not into it.
Not even chicken?
Hold on, you don't like any meat at all?
I know I do chicken. Turkey is iffy. For the longest time before I started tracking macros, I didn't even like chicken. The only source of meat I ate was bacon and pepperoni, which if you look at the macros, it's trash.
Not so high. Yeah.
Fats.
Hot dogs.
Have you ever had Euro meat?
Excuse me?
Lamb.
I thought you said urine meat.
Yeah, that too. No, Euro.
The way she said "excuse me" was like, "Excuse me."
I did not
say what, Jeff.
Jeff, that's not a thing. Urine meat is not a thing.
Verbally smacked me from across the room with that.
No, I have not. I've eaten. Yeah.
Never had it.
If she doesn't like red meat, she doesn't like lamb. This is just a fact.
Okay.
Yeah, it's safe to say I don't mess with that.
Yeah. But let's say we go to a barbecue restaurant. Do you get chicken or do you just get a salad and fries?
Yeah, just a salad and fries and chicken. Yeah.
All right, so the barbecue question is completely worthless here.
I know, sorry guys.
But I got a different question. All right. If you are celebrating, okay, and you are having an untracked meal, if you will, or one that is like a treat, if you will,
okay,
where is the ultimate treat in St. Joseph, Missouri?
Oh gosh.
Which, if you guys don't know, that's where she lives.
That is where I live. St. Joe doesn't have a ton of options. Fun fact, I do think it has the highest concentration of fast food restaurants in a mile strip.
When you drive to Kansas City to eat, I guess.
Yeah. I can throw down on pizza. I'm very simple and I'm a Minsky's girl.
Okay. I like Minsky's.
Yeah. You'll love to know that Casey Joe's just partnered with the Minsky's with some really delicious red meat pizza.
Yeah. But you got to follow up. What's the pizza you're going to get?
Yeah, of course.
Pepperoni pizza.
Pepperoni pizza.
Pepperoni pizza followed by Andy's.
All right, best question. Did you try the Calzeroni?
I haven't.
Google it. Luke, Calzeroni. They made a Travis Kelce pizza that was specific to Minsky's anyways. They called it the Calzeroni. Come on, the marketing team couldn't come up with anything better than that.
I kind of like it.
Andy's has a specific Kelce Blizzard too.
Yeah, which by the way, that one is awesome. Yeah, they're concrete or whatever.
Oh, the Calzeroni.
The Calzeroni.
I mean, what's the difference?
It looks kind of like
three different types of pepperoni. Those cuppy ones, which everybody loves. The cuppy kind.
The Roni cups.
The three-peat.
the grease pools up in them.
Oh
yeah.
It looks almost like stuffed crust. If Minsky's has stuffed crust, it would be game over.
Right.
I would never go anywhere else.
Yeah, I have one walking distance to our house.
Oh, that's dangerous.
It's very dangerous with that.
Do you like a Hawaiian pizza? Are you sweet and salty?
I'm
fatal
pepperoni or
mistake.
Kyle gets down on the pineapple.
Nobody likes it.
Yeah.
I'm alone on this island.
Yeah.
But
Well,
one of my faves.
Lexi, we're so happy for your success. We're so proud of you. And we're excited to watch you continue to ascend and continue to change more lives. It's awesome.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we want to tell everybody where they can find you, or, you know?
Yeah, I'm Lexi J Wellness on Instagram. Lexi Johnson on Facebook. But yeah, Lexi J Wellness on Instagram and TikTok are where you'd find me.
Great. We have your birthday event coming up.
Yeah, I have a birthday event. I don't know if this will be out by July 8th, but
Next Tuesday it'll be out.
Perfect.
Yep.
July
4th of
8th.
July.
So this upcoming Saturday at William Jewell, the Greenfield Stadium, which I believe Greenfield Stadium itself is getting like demolished, I'm told, renovated. But the field itself is good. We're going to do a body weight only workout at 10 a.m. Everyone's welcome. The more the merrier. Just bring water, prepare to sweat because it's going to be hot out. But it should be a good time.
Cool.
And at the exact, not the exact same time, but an hour earlier, on July 22nd, we were going to be doing another community workout with our Supplement Superstores friends, and all of the Lexi J Wellness friends are also, of course, invited as well. That'll be at, hopefully, Rockhurst Field right down the street here. Sweet. Because I think we're going to get so many people that I don't think we'll be able to do it here at Ward Parkway Shopping Center. There's like a little turf area down here. You know what I'm talking about?
Blow it out.
Yeah, there's only, I think that can handle like 30 people. So I think that we'll absolutely beat that. So we're trying to find the right football field. But keep your eyes peeled, guys. If you listen to this podcast before July 22nd of 2023, we will be having a workout with Lexi, and she'll be leading it. And then right after that, we'll be throwing a customer appreciation barbecue party for everybody. And then we'll even have something special, hopefully, for Lexi to eat, since she will not enjoy any of the food.
Bring your own cucumbers.
Cucumbers, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways, we appreciate you so much. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for doing the podcast. It was very good talking to you about all this.
That was awesome.